Hi, today I'm going to show you how to create this web application using this XMLHttpRequest request. And in this tutorial, I'm going to use the HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and PHP language. XMLHttpRequest request. XMLHttpRequest request object was used to request data from the web server and outdate a web page without rerouting the page. And this is the simple model for this XMLHttp request. This is the user, and this is the input field, and this is the response result. The user will input the request in this input field here, make a request, and the system is going to send this HTTP request to the web server. And inside this web server, we have this database, and the web server is going to make the data exchange with the database and send this response data back to our user interface. And we're going to use this HTTP request callback to get the data from the database and display it in the user interface. So let me show you the final system for this tutorial. At the end of this tutorial, you are going to create this simple system that let you add the data to the table. And for example, you key in the name, for example Michael, and the add, for example 50, and you click on this add button. It's going to send this input field data into our database, and after that the database will send back the response and display the result in our table below like this. And I'm going to show you how to select this data and display back into our input field like this. And you also can delete the data by click on this delete button beside the row of the table. So today I'm going to show you how to perform all these functions in this tutorial. Let's start to write the code. In this tutorial, I assume that you already installed your Apache in your local machine. So you need to go to this Apache folder here, and double click on this htdocs folder, and inside here we can start to create our project. And I'm going to create another folder and call it this XML HTTP request tutorial. In this tutorial, I'm going to use this Notepad++ as the code editor, and let me save this file inside our XML HTTP request tutorial folder, and I'm going to call this one index.html. Let's open out this folder here, and this is our index.html file. Inside here, we're going to write this basic structure for this index.html file here. Let's save this index.html and try to run this file on here, the view, and the browser. I'm going to select the Chrome. This the result. We have this name input field, the add into input field, and this add button over here. Next, we need a table. Going to use this div ID with the ID. Going to name this table 1. And after that, we need a JavaScript file. Create another file, and going to call this file. I'm going to name this file site.js. Here we need a function to send an XML HTTP request. So I'm going to create a function, and then I'm going to call it response. pause, or I just call it response HTTP request. And I'm going to pass 3 parameters inside here, and we need a model. This model we're going to hold this PHP file, and we need a parameter, so I just call it param and callback function. First, I'm going to create an XMLHttpRequest request object. And I'm going to use the post method and pass in this model inside here. And next, I'm going to create this onReady state chain property. And if when this ready state property is equal to 4 and the status property is equal to 200, it means the response is ready, so we can use this callback to pass this HTTP response test back to our user interface. And we need to set this XMLHttpRequest request object property. There's 2 properties we need to set. One is set the header. We need to set 2 header, the request header. And we need to send this parameter to the model. So we use this the XMLHttp object.send function, and finally we return this the XMLHttp request object. Next, let's create the model file, and let's save as let's set this file as a model.php, and let's create some PHP data. Let's create some hard-coded data in this PHP file. So this is the way how we create a PHP file. Let's create a 2 array called the data. That's how we call in the PHP for the array. Otherwise, just call it a data list, and it's an array 2. Next, let's create some hard-coded data for this data array. And let's create another 2, 1 and 2, and I'm going to name this one name and age. And we need to push this array, data array, into this data list. And next, we need to convert into the JSON format. So we use this JSON encode for this data list. So after we have this model .php file, next let's try to call this model.php data using this response HTTP request function, and we are going to display this data into our HTML file, and we're going to display the data in front of the user. So going to call this response HTTPRequest, and I'm going to pass in this model.php. And because we don't have for this the first demo, I don't have any parameter, so I just get the NT parameter over here. And for the callback function, I just type in the function and pass in the data, and this data will hold the JSON format data from this PHP file over here. And let's try to call this get element by ID, and then I will just put this get element ID using this table 1, and this will be the object for our this table 1, this one did over here. So the inner text will equal to, and before we can direct using this data from the this PHP file, we need to convert this the JSON file. So let me say did equal, we create as an JSON object. So I just call it JSON data equal we need to use this JSON.fetch to convert the data. So we can read the JSON format data into this JSON underscore data object. After that, we can use this JSON data, and let's try to call this, and let me save this JavaScript file. And in this HTML file here, we need to include this JavaScript source. So source the file into our Java HTML here. So because they are in the same directory, so I just directly type in the site.js over here and close. So let's run this index.html in our browser. To call this, let's try to call this one by using this localhost, and followed by our the folder of our project is XMLHttpRequest, and for underscore tutorial, and followed by our index.html file, and enter, and you can see that it print out this the data from our model.php file, the number, name, and add. For example, I change this add to S2, save, and if I reload this one, you can see that the data changed to S2. And you can go over here. If I set 1 over here, reload, it only show you the name. So you also can pass in this data into our name object, and if I change this data to Bruce, and I reload this browser here, and you will see that let's check over here is the ID of our name is the name, so it's a value. So you need to change this inner text to value, save, and go back to the browser again and reload it, and you will see that the data from our model.php has been this data has been actually the model.php is inside this our web server. So this web server will return this the Bruce, the data one, back by using this XMLHttpRequest when this ready state is equal to 4 and the status is equal to 100. So the callback will pass in this data back to our back to here. This is our callback. So this data will hold this will be is equal to this. So you can check the content inside here by using the console.log, and I can put in this http.response test. And let's check in here again. This time let's press the F12, and if I reload this test, and you can see that this all the tests inside this response test will be called out in our console over here. So this is how we use this XMLHttp request to request the data from our web server and return the response back to our browser and display in front of the user in the HTML object here. So let's create a table. So to create a table using this in the JavaScript, I can create another function. And I can just call it a table, and I'll plug in the three parameter. It's a model, parent, and this one we're going to maybe just on out to this parameter over here. And next we're going to return the response HTTP request. And I'm going to plug in this model parent and with this callback function. And next I'm going to create this table object. I will create a object called T to hold this and write this table or element. I will provide ID and let's call it table. And finally, we are going to use this document.get element by ID and assign this table ID is a table 1, or this div or the table 1, and we're going to put in this HTML inner HTML equal to the T object here, and let's save and let's try to run this table. So let's try to call this table and function by passing this our model.php, and I think that's all. Let's reload this, and you will see that our table will be called. Maybe I change this one to row. We're going to count the number of row, so number of row, and this n is number of column, so I just use a col. So we're going to count the number of column or the data in for this table. And because the first row or the data inside this PHP file, this one is for our table header, and our table header already set is over here. So we need to put one condition over here. So we say that if the row is over 0, then we are going to create this data row. If it's equal to 0, it means it's the header of the table, so it's not going to create this data row. So let's save and let's try run again, and you will see that this one is the table header. Let's create a CSS file to make this table look better. We need to create some border and some background color for the table. So let's create a file and save this file as the just call it a star.css. .css file into our HTML folder. So we need to type this link reference is the zip and have a link is equal to style.css. Let's save and let's try to reload this page again, and you will see that the data you can make the width, let's say about 200 pixels. So we have the first the table with the header data from our web server model.php hardcoded data. So let's create some data for this table rows. So for example, I can create one more data here. So for example, this is the first data. Change this back to name, and this is going to be our table header, and this is going to be the table data, and this is going to be the first data is 1 and Bruce, and the S is about maybe 35. And let's create another data, and this data 2 and name Mike and H 25. Save, go back here and reload the data again, and you will see that we have this table over here.